Hello, it's Avni Alptekin here. Today I want to talk about how you can receive the best quotes from custom manufacturers. Manufacturing requests for non-standard components, assemblies, and products, we refer to them as custom manufacturing. In custom manufacturing, prices, lead times, and quality can vary significantly from one manufacturer to the other. Ambiguities will only result in receiving quotes with higher prices. So manufacturers do not have losses at the end of a project. So they will quote you higher if you don't give them enough information or if you give them wrong information. Provide accurate and detailed information as much as you can to obtain the best quotes possible. Okay. A good idea is to ask manufacturers for their opinion to reduce prices. Of course, don't believe everything you're being told, but it's always a good idea to ask them their opinion, whether how you can reduce the prices, whether there's a better way to manufacture a certain product. Feel free to ask it. But at the end, analyze, research, evaluate, compare answers with your own design and specifications. Okay, the general process in many companies is that when an RFQ or RFP for a custom part or product is received, it is generally scheduled for engineering review meeting. Okay, in these meetings, you get people from different departments come together and they do brainstorming. These departments they come from are generally planning, quality control, engineering, packaging, sales, maybe some others too. And each participant contributes to calculate lead times, materials, what kind of materials will be needed for the production. And using all that information, finally they basically come up with a cost. Okay, and then a formal quote is being drafted. On the other hand, some manufacturers use advanced software tools like group technology to obtain the most accurate quotes. Using group technology, new part designs can be developed using already existing and similar designs, saving a significant amount of time and work. Product designers can determine fast whether data on a similar component already exists in the computer files. Custom manufacturing costs can more easily be estimated, and the relevant statistics on materials, processes, number of parts produced, and other factors can easily be obtained. Process plans are standardized and scheduled more efficiently. Orders are grouped for more efficient production. Machine utilization is optimized. Setup times are lowered. Components, assemblies are manufactured more efficiently and with higher quality. Similar tools, fixtures, machines are shared in the production of a family of parts. We will get back to group technology later. Now, what information should you provide manufacturers to get the best price quote within shortest time? Okay, this is critical for everyone. First, you need to provide 2D blueprints or technical drawings. Make sure your blueprints clearly show dimensions, tolerances, surface finish, coatings if there's any coating, material. Put maybe several materials that are candidates, not just one, because one material may be easier to find than the other ones. Make sure there's a blueprint revision number or letter so that in the future, if you change your drawings, the manufacturer doesn't make it according to the previous drawing, which could be a big problem. You would have a lot of parts being rejected at your facility, and you can't blame the manufacturer if you are giving him the wrong revision number. Okay, so revision number on blueprints is critical, is important. Bill of materials can be on your blueprints, on your 2D, two-dimensional blueprints. Part view from different directions so that people can better understand how the part is going to look like, so they can, better understand and quote the part. This can be in PDF or JPEG format or some other format. Another good thing is to provide custom manufacturers 3D CAD files of parts and assemblies. Okay, this helps a lot when quoting, and some manufacturers may ask, some may not, but if you have them, this is really good. And these can be in DFX, STL, AGS-TECH, PDES format, or else. Make sure to provide quantity that you're looking for, because price depends on quantity, and if the quantity is high, the price will be lower. This is very, very normal most of the time, okay, generally speaking. But be honest, don't deceive any manufacturer, to get a lower price by telling them that you're going to buy 1,000 and then you're placing an order for 100 pieces, because sooner or later, once they realize that you're not honest, they may not do business with you or give you a higher pricing. If there are any off-the-shelf components that are assembled with your parts, please feel free to include them in your blueprints. If assembly is complicated, separate assembly blueprints will help in the quotation process. Provide them to your potential manufacturers. Manufacturers may buy and assemble the off-shelf components into your products or custom manufacture them if they have the facility, if they have the tooling and machines to make them. And if it's economically viable, okay, if the quantity is very few and there's something off the shelf, they may just buy and use it in the assembly. But if the quantity is large and they can make it, they will do it. It will save them on cost. Clearly indicate whether you want manufacturers to quote individual components or sub-assemblies or assemblies. This will avoid misunderstanding and basically changing the quote later on, because if you give them wrong information, it's just going to be requoted later on. Or they may quote you high. They may understand that you want sub-assembly, whereas you want only a certain part in the blueprint. You will get just a higher pricing. It's not a good idea. Just be clear, okay? Shipping address of parts for quote, this will help, because if you don't have a courier account, especially in China, this is very important. The Chinese manufacturers have courier accounts with FedEx or DHL, and they can get much better pricing than you would, okay, because they do a larger volume of business with these courier companies. Indicate whether it is a batch production request or a long-term repeat order that is planned. Repeat orders over long term generally receive better price quotation. Also, blanket orders receive better quotation. So if you place a blanket order for a year, let's say 10,000 pieces, and you want that divided to 10, so 100 every month, okay, for the next 10 months, you can get a better price quote, because the manufacturer will buy the raw materials in advance. He will be sure that the raw materials are going to be used, and he can basically allocate also his machinery for you, okay, and he can offer you a better pricing. Indicate whether you want special packaging, labeling, marking of your products. Indicating all your requirements in the beginning will save both parties time and effort in the quotation process. Otherwise, you can get into delays and requoting and this and that, and problems with the manufacturer. So be clear in the beginning. Any NDAs should be signed right at the beginning. That's a good idea. And if you have an NDA and you want to send it over to a custom manufacturer, do so. But my suggestion is an NDA should be fair to both sides. Many people, they think just NDA should cover them, and they don't care about the other side. If the NDA is just too harsh on the other side, they may not sign it. Okay. Or if you don't have an NDA, just ask the manufacturer for a mutual NDA that covers both sides, and if it makes sense, show it to your lawyer, or if you understand from the legal aspects of an NDA, you can use their NDA. Another important thing, especially with overseas manufacturers like Chinese, is samples. If you have samples, it helps a lot. It prevents from manufacturers making mistakes. Even though blueprints are the communication tool of engineers, and blueprints alone should be sufficient, many times people just miss out something on the blueprints. They don't understand, they don't interpret it right, so samples help a lot. What product design considerations should you have gone through to get the best price quote within shortest time? Okay, here I highlighted product design considerations. Okay, be careful on these words. Is it possible to simplify product design and reduce the number of components for a better quote without adversely affecting intended functions and performance? Can product design be simplified for a simpler manufacturing process? Another question you should ask is, were environmental considerations taken into account and incorporated into material, process, and design? Anything that pollutes the environment leads to higher taxes and disposal fees, and indirectly result in higher quotes. Okay. Have you investigated all design alternatives? Ask manufacturers whether changes in design or material would make the price quote lower. Alternatively, you may send manufacturers several designs and compare quotes on each. Can unnecessary features of the product or its components be eliminated or combined with other features? Have you considered modularity in your design for a family of similar products and for service and repairs, upgrading and installation? Modularity can lower overall prices as well as reduce service and maintenance costs in the long term. Just as an example, molds, for example, when you make plastic parts or rubber parts, a mold can be made with inserts. Okay, an insert is just a smaller part of the mold, and if you have similar parts made from the same material, instead of making many molds, you make many mold inserts, and you just install them on the mold and produce the individual different parts. Okay, this just saves time because an insert is small, whereas a mold, the entire mold, is a big tool that is expensive. Can the design be made lighter and smaller? Lightweight and smaller size, of course, will result in better product quotes, better pricing, and saves you also on shipping cost because it's lighter. Have you specified unnecessary and excessively stringent dimensional tolerances and surface finish? Many times people don't realize they just make blueprints with very tight tolerances. Sometimes they do it intentionally so that competitors can't reproduce the products, they can't imitate them. But many times they just don't realize that these unnecessarily tight tolerances increase the price. Okay, so make sure to keep it as simple as needed. Will it be excessively difficult and time-consuming to assemble, disassemble, service, repair, and recycle? If this is the case, the price will be higher. Again, keep it as simple as possible. Have you considered sub-assemblies? Now, the more value-added services go into a product at one facility, okay, one manufacturer's place, the better pricing you can get, because the manufacturer will have an appetite to make more money because he will be doing more value-added work on the product. So give him as much as possible. But I'm not saying put all your eggs into one basket. I'm not saying just give everything to one manufacturer, but you know, be reasonable when if you are dealing with 10 manufacturers for a simple product, you're not going to make any money. It will be shipped from one place to the other, and it's just too much shipping fees and too much risk. Each time you ship products, they can be lost, they can be damaged. The previous manufacturer may do something, and the other one may blame the other one. You know, it's always a good idea to think of these ahead of time. Okay, have you minimized the use of fasteners, their quantity and variety? Fasteners, in assembled products, they lead, of course, to higher price quotation. If you can design something into your products where you can snap on or stack the parts easily, if it doesn't have to be very tightly screwed, just do it, because it will save you time and money. Are some of the components commercially available? If you have an assembly for quote, please indicate on your drawing if some components are available off the shelf. Just list them, okay, in the material bill of materials. You can list them or just indicate the places where they will be put, and put the part number if it's an off-the-shelf item, the manufacturer, the supplier of it. This can reduce the cost, the prices of your assemblies. But sometimes it's less expensive if manufacturers just manufacture them if the quantity is large. Okay, if let's say you are gonna have a screw that can be available off the shelf, but the quantity is 1,000,000 pieces of that assembly, the manufacturer may have the equipment to make that screw for you, and maybe you can save on cost if you talk to him and find out whether he can make it for you. If possible, choose the safest materials and designs. The safer it is, the lower will be the price quote. Okay, here, what material considerations should you have gone through to get the best price quote within shortest time? Again, I'm highlighting material considerations, okay? Here we will talk about the materials being used in the product. Did you select materials with properties that unnecessarily exceed minimum requirements and specifications? For the lowest quote, try to use the least expensive material that meets or exceeds expectations. Can some materials be replaced with less expensive ones? Of course, this is going to lower the prices. Do the materials you selected have the appropriate manufacturing characteristics? If not, it may take more time to manufacture the parts. There may be more tool wear and thus a higher price. Don't make as a simple example, an extreme example, don't make a part from tungsten if aluminum does the job, okay? Tungsten is very hard to machine. It's hard. It's expensive. Aluminum is cheap. It's soft. It can easily be machined. So keep this in mind when you design products, what materials are going to be used. Are raw materials needed for your products available in standard shapes, dimensions, tolerances, and surface finish? If not, the price quote will be higher due to additional cutting, grinding, processing, etc. For example, sheet metals. If you have a sheet metal product that needs to be fabricated, choose a sheet metal of standard thickness if you can. Don't choose something odd that is not available in the market, okay, as a raw material, because if you do, the manufacturer has to buy that, grind it, basically bring it to the thickness that you need. This is just extra cost. This is just extra work. Is the material supply reliable? Okay, if not, quotes may be different each time you reorder the product, because some materials have rapidly and significantly changing prices in the global marketplace. Quote will be better if the material used is plenty and has a stable supply. This is just common sense. Can raw materials chosen be obtained in the required quantities in the desired time frame? For some raw materials, suppliers have a minimum order quantity, MOQ. Okay, if quantities requested are low, it may be impossible to get a price quote from the material supplier, or the material supplier may say, okay, but you have to buy my MOQ, my minimum order quantity, and then you have extra material lying around which the manufacturer can use later on or for some other product, but they may not. You don't know, and they may just say, oh, I have to buy a certain amount of raw material and I have to stock this for your next order, so I'm going to charge it for you, because there's no guarantee you're going to buy the same product again from me. So it can just lead to higher pricing. Some materials are able to improve assembly and even facilitate automatic assembly, okay? Like let's say you have a design where you have a ferromagnetic material. Ferromagnetic materials can be picked and placed with electromagnetic manipulators, okay, like iron, for example, or steel. Automation can also will lead to better code. So materials that you are choosing can be critical from an automation point of view if they can be easily picked and placed, but electromagnetic manipulators, it's an advantage. Choose materials that increase stiffness to weight and strength to weight ratios of structures whenever possible. This way, less material, raw material is going to be used. Comply with legislation and laws limiting the use of environmentally destructive materials. Again, this approach will eliminate high disposal fees for destructive materials. Choose materials that reduce performance variations, environmental sensitivity of products, improve robustness. This way, there will be less manufacturing scrap and rework. Materials, for example, that are very sensitive to temperature can be a problem. Let's say you manufacture them in a cold place, or in the winter when temperatures aren't really high, or in China you don't know where, what the temperature is in a manufacturing facility, and then they come, and in the summer you want to assemble them and they just expand in the higher temperature. It could not fit into its place just because of the expansion. So this is something to consider when thinking about materials in your design. What manufacturing process considerations should you have gone through to get the best price quote within shortest time? Again, I'm highlighting here manufacturing process considerations, okay? Pay attention to this. Have you considered all alternative processes? Price quote can be surprisingly lower for some processes as compared to others. You may choose the most suitable process together with the manufacturer, okay? Just consult him. They may know something you don't know. I'm not saying listen everything, but it's always good to brainstorm, to consult, to ask, to talk. For example, some parts can be just cast. You don't need any machining. You can just cast them, especially if the volume is high. Die casting could be a good technique to produce metal parts in large quantity. Instead of machining them one by one, just casting may be sufficient, if the tolerances are not extremely tight. What are the ecological impacts of the processes? Try to choose the most ecologically friendly processes. Just like with materials process, the ecological friendliness of the processes is also important. This will result in a lower price quote, just as with materials, because of lower environment-related fees. Are the processing methods considered economical for the type of materials, shape produced, and production rate? If these match well with the processing method, you will receive a more appealing quote. Can requirements for tolerances, surface finish, and product quality be met consistently with the chosen process? The more the consistency, the lower the price quote and the shorter the lead time. Again, it's common sense. Can your components be produced to final dimensions without additional finishing operations? If so, this will give the opportunity to quote lower prices. Okay, finishing. If the part is going into an assembly, it's in a housing, okay, nobody will see the part. You don't need to plate it with gold, okay? Just oiling it, putting grease on it to protect it from corrosion may be sufficient, or not putting anything. Is the tooling required available or manufacturable at chosen plants, or can they purchase it as an off-the-shelf item? If so, they can quote better prices. If not, they will need to procure and add it to quote. For best quote, try to keep designs and required processes as simple as possible. Prefer off-the-shelf or standard tools. As an example, you want a pipe to be extruded, okay? Unless you strictly need it, try to design the pipe with standard dimensions, because pipes are made with certain dimensions. You can see them in catalogs, brochures. Choose something that's already there. Don't have the manufacturer make a special die to extrude the pipe according to your very odd thickness, wall thickness, and diameter. Did you think of minimizing the scrap by choosing the right process? The lower the scrap, the lower the quoted price. Manufacturers may be able to sell some scrap and deduct from the quote in some cases, but most of the scrap metal and plastics produced during processing are of low value. Okay, they are almost they don't get any very little money for that scrap. Okay, therefore, choosing the right process to minimize scrap is important. For example, extruding may reduce scrap as compared to machining. When you machine, you get a lot of flakes and pieces flying around. That's just scrap and doesn't bring in any much money. But when you extrude, you don't have that. Give manufacturers the opportunity to optimize all processing parameters. This will result in a more appealing quote. For example, if 4 weeks lead time is good for you, don't insist on 2 weeks, which will force manufacturer to machine parts faster and therefore have more tool damage, as this will be calculated into the quotation. Okay. Have you explored all the automation possibilities for all phases of the production? If not, considering your project along these lines can result in a lower price quote. Basically, think along the lines of design for manufacturability. Okay, this is a concept. You can check it on Google. Try to understand what DFM means. It's an important thing in manufacturing, important concept. Some manufacturers implement group technology for parts with similar geometries and manufacturing attributes. You will receive a better quotation if you send over RFQs for more parts with similarity in geometry, design, and material. If they evaluate them at the same time together, they will most likely, basically the manufacturer, custom manufacturer, will most likely quote lower prices for each, with the condition that they are ordered together. Okay, so when you are ordering them all together and they are made from same material, same grade of steel or same plastic, if you order them all together using group technology, you will have savings, better quotes, better prices, and savings. Material minimum order quantities can also be met more easily because manufacturer will buy a larger quantity of the same material. It's easier to buy a larger quantity and meet the MOQ requirement. And the tools will be shared. Group technology, as I mentioned in the very beginning of my presentation here, group technology is a key concept where tools can be shared. If you have special manufacturing, inspection, and quality control procedures to be implemented, make sure they are useful and not misleading. Manufacturers cannot take responsibility for mistakes arising due to ill-designed procedures imposed on them. Generally speaking, quotes are more appealing if manufacturers implement their own procedures. I'm not saying let them implement everything the way they want. You can discuss, but be open, okay? Be flexible, be open. They may know something better than you do. You may be a smart guy, but so are they, okay? It's always good to take the opinion of different people. Many different smart people come together. There will be something, there will be a synergy, and you can get something even better than what you anticipate. For high volume production, generally quotes will be better if manufacturer manufactures all components in your assembly. However, sometimes for low volume production, final quote can be lower if they can purchase some of the standard items that go into your assembly. Consult with manufacturers prior to making a decision. A final few words before concluding this presentation. There are many other things that are important to obtain the best offers and quotes from manufacturers. What I mentioned here are just some of the important ones. Do consider as many of these that I listed, that I mentioned, but also others that you may think of. And keep in mind, price is definitely not everything. This is not something you should be basically get stuck on. Okay, price is not everything. Quality, price, lead time, along with many other factors, should be considered when choosing a manufacturer. And only you will know what is really important for your business. Okay, many buyers, many customers, they go for quality, price, and lead time. These three are key, but for you it may be different. So what I explained here is not for everyone. You could be developing a product and you may not have the luxury of taking any chances, okay, in getting bad products. You may go with the most expensive supplier that you just trust. That's totally fine, because you don't have a second chance, okay, to make the product. Your time may be limited. You may be supplying something very special to someone, okay, or you may be a military customer who cannot accept products from overseas, okay, even though you may cut costs significantly buying them from China. You may not have that option, okay, if you're supplying to the military. Also keep in mind that none of the above suggestions and advice should be taken as a firm rule. Instead, your own circumstances and evaluation combined with proper interpretation and common sense should pave the road to decisions on how to proceed when approaching manufacturers. We are here for you, okay, with an already well-established manufacturing basis, global manufacturing basis and network. You can benefit from us if you have anything that needs custom manufactured. Please subscribe to our channel and visit our website. Put a thumbs up if you liked this video, and we'll see each other later. Thank you.